One word in my resume was a lie. That lie opened the door and the disaster. Sit down. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself this. Have you ever lied to protect your dream? Have you ever said something just to survive, even when you knew it wasn't true? My name is Mateo. I'm from Cordoba, Argentina. And I did exactly that. I told a lie, a big one. I said I was fluent in English when I wasn't. And that one sentence almost destroyed everything I had ever hoped for. But this story is not just about me. It's about you. Maybe you're learning English right now. Maybe you've tried and failed. Maybe you feel like it's too late or too hard. I understand that feeling because I lived it. I know what it's like to freeze when someone speaks too fast. I know how it feels to stay silent when you have something to say. And I know the fear of being found out. The fear that maybe, just maybe, you're not ready for the life you want. But here's the truth. This journey will show you that it's never too late. Not to speak better English. Not to change your life. Not to become the person you dream of being. Because what happened after my lie? It changed me. It broke me. And then it built me again. Stronger, clearer, and real. If you stay with me until the end of this story, you will not only learn what I went through, you will also learn how I turned it all around. How I went from scared and silent to confident and fluent. You will get real lessons, real English practice, real emotion. This is not just a motivational story, it's a mirror. You might see yourself in it. And that's a good thing. Welcome to English Starline. On this channel, we don't just learn English. We grow. We change. We build confidence through real stories and real feelings. So if you're ready to learn English, if you're ready to feel something, and if you're ready to hear a story that might just change how you see yourself, stay with me. Because I'm going to take you from the moment I pressed send on a resume with one lie, to the moment I stood on a stage, told the truth, and spoke English like I never thought I could. It started with a dream. Then came the lie. And what happened next? You'll have to hear for yourself. He thought the lie would open a door. Instead, it opened a storm. Part 1. The lie that started it all. I remember the day like it just happened. The air was warm in Cordoba. I was sitting in my small room, fan blowing slowly, laptop open on my bed. I had just finished working on my latest graphic design project. It looked good. Maybe not perfect, but good. My dream was simple. I wanted to work in California, maybe in a startup, maybe in a design agency. I wanted to be part of something big, something global, something exciting. But there was one problem: English. I had studied it in school, I had passed the tests, but I couldn't really speak. Not fluently, not confidently. When I heard native speakers talk, it felt like fast music. I couldn't catch the words. I couldn't reply. My tongue would freeze. My brain would panic. Still, that dream of California lived inside me like a fire. One night, I was browsing job websites. I saw a post, Junior Graphic Designer, California, International Applicants Welcome. I clicked. The job description made my heart beat faster. Must be fluent in English. Must be confident in meetings. Must communicate well with global clients. I sat there staring at the screen. My hands got cold. I didn't meet the language requirement. But I had the skills. I had the design talent. I had the hunger. I told myself, maybe they won't test me too hard. Maybe I can learn fast once I get the job. Maybe I can fake it. So I did something I had never done before. I opened my resume. Under languages, I wrote, English, fluent. Then I sat back. I felt sick. I wasn't lying to cheat. I was lying to survive. to get a chance, to reach the place where my dream lived. I hit send. The next day, I got an email. "Dear Mateo, we love your portfolio. Can we set up an interview tomorrow?" My stomach dropped. I didn't tell anyone. Not my parents, not my friends. I didn't even want to tell myself. I replied, "Yes, I'm available." That night, I opened YouTube and searched how to speak English fluently in 24 hours. I copied some answers. I practiced them out loud. I wrote small scripts for common questions. I said them again and again. But it all felt fake, like I was playing a role I didn't understand. The next day came fast. I wore my best shirt. I opened Zoom. The screen blinked, and then I saw 3 faces, smiling, confident, American. They said, "Hi, Mateo, great to meet you. Let's begin." I smiled back. My face was calm, but inside I was falling apart. They asked, "Tell us about yourself." I started talking. "Hello, my name is Mateo. I'm a graphic designer. I love design. I worked with many projects. I have passion for creative solution." I could feel my grammar breaking. My words were slow, but I kept going. I didn't stop. I finished my answer. They nodded. One of them said, "Thank you." Another asked, "How do you manage deadlines when you have multiple projects?" I had practiced this one. I said, "Yes, good question. I always make list. I use Trello for project. I do time management." They smiled again, not laughing, just listening. The interview lasted 15 minutes. At the end they said, "We'll be in touch." I closed the laptop. I was sweating. My hands were shaking. I had no idea how it went. I felt embarrassed. I felt fake. The next morning, an email arrived. "Dear Mateo, we're happy to offer you the position. Please confirm your travel dates to San Jose." I couldn't believe it. I stared at the screen for a long time. I wanted to be happy. I really did. But all I felt was fear. Because now the lie was real. Now I had to live it, speak it, survive it. I told my parents. They didn't understand all the details, but they hugged me. They were proud. They believed in me. I didn't tell them about the English part. I didn't tell them about the fear. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane for the first time in my life. My heart was full of hope. But my backpack was full of worry. I told myself, I'll learn fast, I'll figure it out. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't ready. Not for California, not for English, not for what was waiting for me. I thought California was the dream. It turned out to be the test. Part 2, Interview Day. The day of the interview felt like walking into a fire with a smile on my face. I was pretending to be calm, but my stomach was in knots. I woke up early, too early. I couldn't eat. I kept looking at my notes, repeating my answers like a robot. My small room felt like a prison. The mirror showed a man trying to act brave, but his eyes gave him away. I was scared, not because I didn't want the job, but because I knew I didn't deserve it. Not yet. I wore my best shirt. It was clean but a little old. I didn't have a suit or a tie. I brushed my hair 3 times. I practiced my smile. Then I sat in front of my laptop and opened Zoom. The loading circles spun for what felt like a lifetime. Then, 3 faces appeared. 2 men, 1 woman, all smiling, all confident. "Hi, Mateo. Great to meet you." I smiled. "Hi, nice to meet you too." My voice sounded strange to me, like it didn't belong. "Let's start with a quick introduction. Tell us about yourself." I nodded. This was the line I practiced the most. Hello, my name is Mateo. I am from Argentina. I'm a graphic designer. I worked with many projects. I love problem solving through design. I saw one of them write something down. My heart jumped. Was it a good note? A bad one? I couldn't tell. Great, the woman said. Can you tell us about a time you worked under pressure? This one was harder. I had not practiced this question. I tried to think fast. Yes, one time I work with client, very fast deadline, only 3 days. I create logo and website layout. I sleep little, but I finish all, the client happy. They nodded again. One of the men smiled. Sounds intense. I smiled back. I was speaking, yes, but inside I was shaking. My words were short, my grammar weak. I understood only 70% of what they said, but I nodded like I got everything. That was my trick. Nod, smile. Say something simple. They asked a few more questions. I kept my answers short and safe. Nothing creative, nothing special, just safe. I thought, if I don't make mistakes, maybe I'll survive. 15 minutes later, they thanked me and ended the call. I closed my laptop and leaned back. I had survived, but I didn't feel proud. I felt tired, heavy. I knew I had shown them only 50% of who I was. And the worst part? I didn't know how to show the rest. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking, did they notice? Did they hear the fear in my voice? Did they feel I was pretending? The next morning, I got an email. Dear Mateo, we are pleased to offer you the position. We were impressed with your portfolio. Please confirm your availability to move to California. I read the email 5 times. My hands were shaking. I wanted to jump and scream, but I just sat there. Because deep inside, I felt something else. Fear. I had said I was fluent, but now I had to live fluently. I had no plan, no backup. Just one big risk, one big lie, and a dream I didn't know how to hold. I showed the email to my parents. They were so happy. My father hugged me tight. My mother cried. My son is going to America, she said. I smiled, but I couldn't tell them the full truth. I couldn't tell them that I was terrified. 2 weeks later, I packed my bags. I had never been on a plane. I had never left Argentina. Now I was flying to a country where people spoke fast, lived fast, worked fast, and I had to catch up. The flight was long. My mind kept racing. I listened to English podcasts but only understood a little. I kept telling myself, you can do this. You just need time. But when the plane landed and I walked into the busy airport, I knew one thing. Time was not my friend. California didn't wait for anyone. And the test of my life was about to begin. Part 3. Pain number 1. The isolation. The moment I stepped out of the airport in San Jose, everything felt too big. The cars were bigger, the buildings taller, the air colder. People moved fast. They spoke faster. And every sound was in English. Not the slow classroom English I had learned. This was something else. Fast, full of slang, full of emotion. I felt like I had landed on another planet. I had booked a cheap shared room in a house near the office. The room was small, just a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at a brick wall. My roommate was a student from Korea. He didn't talk much. I didn't talk at all. Every word I wanted to say got stuck somewhere between my mind and my mouth. The first night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, listening to the city sounds outside. Sirens, voices, music from a nearby bar. I wanted to feel excited, but I didn't. I felt alone. More alone than I had ever felt in my life. The next morning, I needed food. I walked to a nearby cafe. The menu was all in English. I could read the words, but I didn't know how to say them out loud. I stood in line, repeating my order in my head like a song. 1 coffee, 1 sandwich, 1 coffee, 1 sandwich. But when it was my turn, the cashier smiled and asked, "Hi, what can I get for you?" My mind went blank. I froze. Coffee, sandwich," I said quickly. She asked, "What kind of sandwich?" I didn't know how to answer. I just pointed. She nodded, gave me the total, and moved on. I walked away feeling small. I had just ordered breakfast, but it felt like a fight. That became my life. Silent, careful, small. I avoided conversations. I avoided people. At work, I kept to myself. I said hello, but nothing more. I didn't understand the office jokes. I didn't join the team lunches. I just ate alone at my desk and told myself, just survive the day. I wanted to practice speaking, but I was too scared. I didn't want to sound stupid. I didn't want people to hear my mistakes. So I stayed quiet. No words, no friends, no sound, except the fear in my head. Every weekend I stayed inside. I watched English videos with subtitles. I listened to podcasts, but I didn't speak. Days passed, then weeks, and something inside me began to change. Not in a good way. My energy dropped. My confidence disappeared. Even the designs I made started to look boring. I was in California, but I felt like I had never really arrived. I remember one day clearly. I was walking home and I passed a park. 2 little kids were playing catch. One of them threw the ball too hard and it rolled toward me. I picked it up and handed it back. "Thanks," the kid said. I smiled. I wanted to say, "No problem," but the words didn't come out. I just nodded and walked away. I sat on a bench nearby and watched them play. And suddenly, tears came. I didn't plan them. They just fell. Quiet, slow tears. I wiped them quickly. I didn't want anyone to see. But I couldn't stop the feeling. I had dreamed of this life for years, and now I had it. But it felt like I was watching someone else live it. That night, I looked in the mirror. My eyes looked tired. My shoulders low. I whispered, "Why did you lie?" But I already knew the answer. Because I didn't believe I could make it with the truth. I pulled out my notebook. I wrote, "I will speak, I will speak, I will speak." But I didn't. Not yet. Because the fear was still stronger than the promise. And the worst part was, I didn't know how to break free. Part 4, Pain. 2, The Workplace Crash. The first day at the office was like walking into a movie. Tall glass doors, clean white walls, people with perfect clothes and confident smiles. I walked in wearing my black jeans, a button-up shirt, and my old sneakers. My heart was beating so loud I thought everyone could hear it. At the front desk, the receptionist asked me something I couldn't catch. Her words were too fast. I froze for a second. Then I said, "Mateo." "First day." She nodded, typed something, and gave me a visitor badge. I smiled weakly and moved on. A woman came to meet me. "Hi, I'm Julia. I'll show you around. Welcome to the team." Her voice was kind, but her words still moved like a river. I understood maybe half of what she said. I kept nodding and smiling. I had learned to do that well. She gave me a quick tour. "This is the kitchen. Free coffee here. That's the conference room. Your team sits on the left side." I kept nodding. "Got it," I said, even though I didn't. We reached my desk. It had a small note that said, "Welcome, Mateo." That made me smile. I sat down and opened my laptop. I stared at the screen, pretending to check emails. In truth, I was trying to calm my breathing. Then came the meeting. "Team meeting in 10, someone called out. I followed the group into a glass-walled room. Everyone seemed to know each other. They talked fast, laughed easily, used phrases I had never heard before. "Let's circle back on that," someone said. Another replied, "What's the vibe we're going for?" I didn't know what these words meant. I just sat there, silent. Then Julia, my team lead, looked at me. "Mateo, any thoughts?" Time stopped. My mouth went dry. My palms started sweating. Everyone looked at me. I wanted to say something smart, something helpful. But my brain was blank. I opened my mouth. I think maybe we can do better. Color? It made no sense. My voice was shaking. I saw the confused looks. One person raised an eyebrow. Someone else looked down at their notebook. Julia gave a small smile. "Okay, we'll explore some more options." She moved on. That was the moment I knew. They could see it. They could feel it. I wasn't fluent. I wasn't confident. I had said I was, but I wasn't. After that meeting, things changed. Nobody was rude. Nobody said anything mean. But the team stopped asking for my input. In meetings, no one looked at me. Emails came with very simple tasks. Just fix colors. Just resize this. Nothing creative. Nothing important. One day, I overheard two coworkers talking near the printer. "Isn't Mateo the new designer?" one asked. "Yeah," the other said. "I think he's still learning English. Julia has to explain everything twice." I stood around the corner listening. My face felt hot. I wanted to walk away, but my feet didn't move. That evening, I stayed late, not to work, just to think. I sat at my desk while the office got quiet. I looked at the computer screen and saw my reflection. I didn't like what I saw. A man who had flown across the world, only to hide behind silence. The next day, Julia called me into a one-on-one meeting. "Mateo," she said gently, "we love your design work, but I wanted to check in. You seem a little quiet in meetings. Are you okay?" I nodded too fast. Yes, all okay." She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that hides questions. "I know English is not your first language, and that's completely fine. If you ever want support or training, we can arrange something." I thanked her and left. But inside, I felt like I was falling. The lie on my resume was no longer hiding. It was standing in front of me, blocking my way. It had gotten me the job, yes, but now it was taking it away piece by piece. Every time I sat in a meeting, I felt smaller. Every time I didn't speak, I lost a little more respect, from others and from myself. I began to dread going to work. Not because of the tasks, but because of the silence. Because I felt useless. I knew I had ideas. I knew I had talent, but I couldn't share them. The words wouldn't come. And when they did, they sounded broken. Weak. I had come to California to grow, but all I was doing was surviving. Quietly, carefully, alone. I thought about quitting. I thought about going home. I even checked flight prices one night. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't give up. Not yet. Because deep down, I still had a hope, a small one. That maybe, just maybe, I could fix this. But I didn't know that the worst was still coming. The moment that would break me completely was just around the corner. And when it came, it would not be quiet. It would be loud, public, and unforgettable. Part 5. Pain 3. Public embarrassment. It was a Friday afternoon when Julia sent out the team email. Next week, we'll have our monthly team mixer. Everyone will introduce themselves and share one fun fact. It's a great way to connect and build culture. She added a smiley face at the end, like it was no big deal. But for me, it was everything. I stared at that email for 10 minutes. My heart was already racing. Public speaking, in English, in front of the whole office? No way. I thought about replying and saying I'd be sick. I thought about pretending I had a family emergency. Anything to avoid it. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, just like always. The mixer was scheduled for Thursday. It would be in the big meeting room. Everyone from the department would be there. That meant over 40 people. I told myself maybe I wouldn't have to speak. Maybe I could just smile and listen. But on Wednesday, Julia walked by my desk and said, "Matteo, looking forward to your intro tomorrow." I smiled and nodded. Yes, me too. My stomach turned. That night, I practiced in front of the mirror. "Hello, my name is Matteo. I am from Argentina. I am a graphic designer. One fun fact is, I like empanadas." It sounded okay, but my voice was shaking. I practiced again, and again. I tried different fun facts. I love old movies. I can draw superheroes. But no matter what I said, I felt like I was reading lines in a language that didn't belong to me. The next day, I barely touched my breakfast. I arrived at work early, but it didn't help. I kept repeating my lines in my head, over and over. My hands were cold. My mouth was dry. My heart was beating faster with every step toward that room. At 3:00 p.m., everyone gathered. There were snacks on the side, soft music playing. People were laughing, chatting, relaxed. I stood in the corner, holding a cup of water I didn't drink. Julia stood in the center. "Okay, everyone, let's get started. We'll go around the room. Just say your name, your role, and one fun fact about yourself. I'll start." She spoke confidently, made people laugh. Then it went clockwise. One by one, people stood up, shared something funny or interesting. Laughter filled the room. The line of introductions was moving fast, too fast. Then it was my turn. I stood up. My legs felt weak. Everyone looked at me. I opened my mouth. "Hello, my name is, I am Matteo. I am from, graphic. I do design." 40 people, 2 minutes, 0 English. Someone smiled kindly. Someone else looked down at their plate. I tried again. One fun fact. I like soccer food. Movie, sorry. A few people chuckled softly, not at me, but at the situation. They were trying to be kind, but it made it worse. I wanted the floor to open and swallow me. I sat down quickly. My ears were burning. I didn't hear the next person. I didn't even hear my own thoughts. Just noise. Just shame. When the event ended, people clapped politely. Some came over to chat, but no one mentioned my intro. I left quietly, walked fast. I didn't go home. I just walked, around blocks, past shops and houses. I needed air. I needed space. I ended up at a small park bench and sat there until the sun went down. That night, I couldn't even cry. I just lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling. This was my breaking point. Not because I made a mistake, but because I had tried. I had really tried. And still, I failed. In front of everyone. I felt exposed, like my secret had been shouted to the world. The truth was no longer hiding behind silence. It had stood up in front of 40 people and fallen apart. I thought about quitting again, about going home, about giving up on English forever. But somewhere deep inside the pain, another voice started to speak. A quiet one, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that waits. It said, "This is not the end." It said, "You can do better." It said, "Start again, but this time, start the right way." Part 6, Rock Bottom and Realization. After that mixer, something inside me broke. I wasn't just embarrassed. I felt like I had failed completely, not just in front of others, but in front of myself. I had worked so hard to get to California. I had left everything behind, and now I couldn't even introduce myself properly at work. The next morning, I didn't want to get out of bed. I stared at the ceiling and thought, what am I doing here? I called in sick. I wasn't really sick, but I couldn't face anyone. I spent the day lying in bed, playing the moment over and over in my head. The silence, the stares, the way I sat down after my failed speech. I hated myself for freezing. I hated myself for lying. But most of all, I hated the fear that was controlling my life. That evening, I looked around my small room. There was nothing special in it. Just a bed, a small desk, and a window with no view. But something about that silence felt loud, heavy, final. I stood in front of the mirror. My face looked tired. My eyes were dull. I whispered, "This is not me." Then louder, "This is not who I want to be." I walked to my desk, pulled out my notebook, the same one I used before the interview, and opened it to a fresh page. I wrote one sentence. I lied because I was afraid, but I won't live in fear anymore. I didn't write it to be dramatic. I wrote it because it was the truth. The biggest truth I had told in weeks. In that moment, something shifted. I realized the lie wasn't just on my resume. I lied to get in. Then I kept lying by staying small. Every nod, every fake smile, every time I stayed silent, it was all a way of hiding. And hiding wasn't helping me grow. It was only making the pain deeper. I sat there for a long time, staring at that sentence. I felt angry, but it wasn't the kind of anger that makes you want to break something. It was the kind that pushes you to build, to fix, to start over. I told myself, no more shortcuts, no more pretending. If I want to be fluent, I need to earn it, word by word, day by day. That night, I made a decision, a real one. I wouldn't run away. I wouldn't go back to Argentina. I would stay. But this time, I would start the right way. I would speak, even if I made mistakes. I would study with my ears, my mouth, my heart. I would learn real English, not to impress anyone, but to free myself from fear. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being honest. I went to sleep with one clear thought in my mind. I don't have to fake my future. I just have to work for it. And starting tomorrow, I will. Part 7. New strategy, new life. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I didn't check my phone. I didn't open YouTube. I sat at my desk with a cup of coffee and wrote 3 words in my notebook. Speak, listen, repeat. That would be my new strategy. No apps. No expensive courses. Just daily action, honest effort, real practice. I started with speaking, but not with other people. I started with myself, in my room, in front of the mirror. I called it mirror talk. Every morning I would look at myself and say simple things out loud. I am brushing my teeth. I am drinking coffee. I am going to work. I didn't care how simple it was. I just wanted my mouth to move. I wanted to hear English come from my own voice. At first, it felt strange. I felt silly. But after a few days, something changed. My mouth didn't feel so heavy. My tongue started to move more easily. The words came faster. My brain stopped translating from Spanish. I was beginning to think in English. Then I added shadow listening. I picked short videos from YouTube, conversations, interviews, even movie clips. I listened to one sentence, paused, then repeated it out loud, exactly the same. Same speed, same tone, same emotion. If the speaker said, "I don't know what you mean," I said it the same way. Not like a student, but like an actor. I became the voice. Sometimes, I replayed the same line 10 times. But each time, I got a little better. My pronunciation improved. My rhythm sounded more natural. I didn't sound like a robot anymore. I started to hear the music of English. The third part of my strategy was the question-answer method. Every day, I asked myself simple questions and answered them with more and more details. What did you do today? Answer 1, I worked. Answer 2, I worked on a new design. Answer 3, I worked on a new design for a client who sells sports clothes. Answer 4, I worked on a new design for a client who sells sports clothes. I used green and black because they wanted something bold and modern. Each answer grew longer, clearer, stronger. I was training my brain to build sentences, not just remember words. I repeated this routine every day. Morning mirror talk, afternoon shadow listening, evening question-answer practice. 30 minutes here, 40 minutes there. No pressure, just progress. At work, I still felt nervous, but I started speaking more. In small ways. I said good morning to my team instead of just smiling. I asked one coworker, "How was your weekend?" When they answered, I listened carefully. Even if I didn't understand everything, I didn't panic. I just nodded and said, "That's nice." It was a small win, but it felt big. One day, I was at the coffee machine. A coworker named Dave said, "Mateo, your English is getting better." I smiled. "Thank you, I practice every day now." He nodded. "It shows, man, keep it up." That moment gave me more fuel. Not because I wanted praise, but because I saw proof. Real proof that my effort was working. I started reading short articles online. Easy ones. I wrote down new words and made simple sentences with them. I learned 5 words a day. But instead of just memorizing, I used them in my mirror talk, in my questions, in my thoughts. I didn't wait for motivation. I created routine. Some days I was tired, some days I was frustrated, but I kept going. I told myself, fluency is not a gift, it's a habit. After 4 weeks, my team noticed. In meetings, I started to speak more. Not long speeches, but clear points. I said things like, "I think we can try a brighter color," or, "This design might feel more modern if we add some motion." Julia smiled. She nodded. She started asking for my opinion again. One Friday, she said, "Mateo, can you explain your concept to the client on Monday?" I froze for a second. Then I said, "Yes, I can." All weekend I practiced. I wrote my points. I said them out loud. I recorded my voice and played it back. I corrected myself. On Monday, I spoke to the client for 5 full minutes. I made some mistakes, but I didn't freeze. I didn't panic. And the client smiled and said, "Great explanation. We love it." I walked out of that meeting with a new feeling. It wasn't pride. It was freedom. The lie had taken away my voice. But my work, My honest, daily, simple work had given it back. I was not fluent yet, not perfect, but I was no longer afraid, no longer silent, no longer fake. I had built a new version of myself, one that could speak, share, and grow. This wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was the result of small steps taken every day with heart, with courage, and with honesty. And that was the start of my real life in English. Part 8. Small wins, big growth. Progress didn't come all at once. It came in small, quiet moments. Moments that most people wouldn't notice. But I noticed them all. One morning, I ordered coffee without fear. I said, "Hi, can I get a medium black coffee, please?" The cashier smiled and replied, "Sure. Anything else?" I said, "No, that's all, thank you." I paid, waited, and walked out. No panic, no confusion. I smiled to myself. It felt like I had climbed a mountain just to speak one simple sentence. At work, things were changing too. Julia asked me questions again during meetings. I didn't give long answers, but I gave clear ones. "I think this layout is easier to read. Let's try a darker shade of blue." They listened. They nodded. Some even took notes when I spoke. My voice was becoming part of the room. One day, a new intern joined our team. His name was Luis. He was from Mexico and had just moved to California. He was quiet. He looked nervous. I recognized that face. I had worn it myself. During lunch, I sat next to him. I said, "Hey, welcome to the team. If you need help with anything, just ask." He looked surprised, then smiled. "Thank you," he said softly. "My English is not so good." I nodded. "It's okay, mine wasn't either." That short conversation meant more to me than any design project. It was proof that I had grown. I was once the silent one. Now I was helping someone else speak. Another day, our team had to brainstorm ideas for a new client. I spoke up early. I said, "Maybe we can use simple shapes and strong colors to match their brand." Julia pointed at me and said, "That's a great direction. Can you sketch that out?" I nodded. I felt calm. I felt ready. Later that week, Dave, one of my coworkers, said, "Man, you've changed. Your English, your confidence, it's like you're a different person." I smiled and said, "I just needed some time and a lot of practice." It wasn't just about the words. It was about the weight behind them. I wasn't just saying new things. I was becoming someone new. Every little win added strength to my voice. Every small risk made me braver. I still made mistakes. I still forgot words. I still got nervous sometimes. But I didn't let it stop me anymore. I laughed when I messed up. I asked questions when I didn't understand. I spoke, even when I was unsure, because now I knew something important. You don't need to be perfect to be understood. You don't need to be fluent to be respected. You just need to keep going. And the more I went forward, the more I saw that I was no longer walking alone. I was part of the team. I was part of the conversation. I was finally part of the life I had once only dreamed of. Part 9, Final Test and Redemption. A month later, something happened that brought my journey full circle. Julia walked over to my desk one morning with a big smile. "Mateo," she said, "we're hosting another team mixer next week. This time, we're inviting some clients too. We want you to say a few words. Just a short welcome. 2 minutes max." I froze for a second. Not from fear, but from memory. The last time I had stood in front of a room full of people, I had broken down. My voice had failed me. My English had failed me. I had felt like a ghost standing in a room of professionals. But this time was different. This time I was ready. I nodded. Yes, I'd love to. For the next few days, I prepared. Not by memorizing lines, but by planning ideas. I wrote a short speech and practiced it every night, in front of the mirror, in the kitchen, even during walks to work. I didn't try to sound perfect. I just tried to sound like me. The day of the event came. The meeting room was decorated with lights and snacks again, just like before. I stood near the back at first, watching people come in. I saw some of the same faces. I saw Luis, the intern, smiling nervously as he grabbed a soda. I walked over, gave him a fist bump, and said, "You got this." He smiled wide. Then Julia tapped a glass with a spoon. "Everyone, thank you for joining us today. We're happy to have you here. Before we start, Mateo has a few words." I walked to the front. My heart was beating fast, but not wild, just steady. I looked around the room. I saw eyes, smiles, faces that once felt distant now felt familiar. I took a breath. "Hello, everyone. My name is Mateo. I'm from Argentina. When I first arrived here, I was afraid to speak. I didn't feel ready. I thought my English had to be perfect before I could talk." People nodded, but I learned something important. You don't need to be perfect to connect with others. You just need to try. You just need to show up day after day, word after word. I paused, looked around. Thank you for giving me the space to grow. Thank you for listening, not just to my words, but to my effort. Silence for a second. Then, applause. Real applause. Not polite, not forced. It filled the room. I smiled, not because of the claps, but because of what they meant. I didn't fake this version of me. I built it. After the event, people came up to me. Some said, "Great job, Mateo." Others said, "That was inspiring." Even a client walked over and said, "We could use someone like you on a future campaign." That night, I walked home with a light heart. I didn't practice English. I didn't study. I just reflected. I had passed my final test, not the speech, but the journey. The lie that once made me feel like a fraud had led me to the truth. The truth that real strength is not in pretending to be ready. It's in preparing until you are. I looked up at the night sky over California and whispered, "I did it." And this time, I truly meant every word. Closing, legacy, and lesson. If you've ever lied just to survive, just to be seen, just to get a chance, you're not alone. I did that. I told one small lie on my resume. Just one word. Fluent. But that one word nearly destroyed everything. Not because people found out, but because I had to carry the weight of pretending. Every meeting, every conversation, every silent moment, I felt like I didn't belong. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because I wasn't honest with myself. That lie got me through one door, but it also built a wall between who I was and who I wanted to be. And here's the truth I want you to remember. You don't need to lie to reach your dream. You don't need to fake confidence. You don't need to speak perfect English from day one. You just need to start. Wherever you are, however broken your sentences feel, speak them anyway. Because fluency doesn't come from fear. It comes from practice, from patience, from showing up every single day, even when you feel tired, even when you feel like nothing's changing. I didn't find my voice in a classroom. I found it in my small room talking to a mirror. I found it by repeating one sentence 20 times until my tongue stopped shaking. I found it when I stopped trying to sound perfect and started trying to be real. You don't have to move to another country to learn English. You don't have to spend thousands on courses. You already have the most important tools: your voice, your effort, your reason. So if you're watching this and thinking, I can't speak, I'm too old, I'm too scared, I've failed before, I want to tell you something. You are not finished. You are not broken. You are not late. You are just beginning. Make a promise today. A small one. Not, I will be fluent in 1 month, but something real, something doable. I will speak 1 sentence out loud every day. I will watch 5 minutes of English videos. I will write 1 line in my notebook. Start small, but stay consistent. Because small actions build big changes. And don't worry if you make mistakes. Mistakes are your teachers. They are signs that you are moving, that you are trying, that you are learning. Say this to yourself. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to keep going. You'll be surprised at how far you can go when you stop hiding and start practicing. This story wasn't about becoming a hero. It was about becoming honest. Honest with others. Honest with myself. And now I'm passing the message to you. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And your English journey doesn't need to start with fear. It can start with courage. This is English Starline, where we don't just practice English, we grow through it. If you're ready to learn, to speak, to become the real you, this is your home. So what's your next step? Write it down, say it out loud, share it in the comments. Don't wait, don't fake it. Start now, start real, start strong. Because you only get one voice. Use it.
Thanks for watching English Starline. Subscribe now to keep learning English through the amazing stories of famous lives.